Are you getting the respect you deserve from your current carrier? Unfortunately, driver mistreatment is common in this industry. From being asked to deliver in conditions you're not comfortable with, to being treated like a number, we hear about a lot of ways drivers feel disrespected. Let's talk about 5 common driver mistreatment problems and how you can get the respect you deserve.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm the Vice President of Recruiting here at Anderson Trucking Service. I've been in the industry a little over 30 years. I'm here to talk to you today about the importance of respect and what respect plays in the role of the relationship between drivers and the companies that they're working for. And that's why I work so hard to make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure that we're treating our drivers right. So let's just dive into the 5 most common mistreatments that we hear about and complaints that we get from drivers and what you can do to try to avoid those situations. So let's talk about complaint number 1. Being asked to drive in unsafe weather conditions. A couple of examples of that: snowstorms, depending upon where you're at in the nation, the slippery roads, the icy roads, really windy conditions. And if you've been ever hauling a van that's empty, you know how that wind is just going to blow that trailer all over the place. There are some conditions that you should just not be asked to drive in. So now the question is how do you solve the problem? Solution number 1, first off, your carrier should never ask you to ever drive in unsafe weather conditions, period. Second thing, if you don't feel safe, you shouldn't be getting behind that wheel. You should be calling to your fleet manager and saying you don't feel comfortable. Any safety department is going to back you 100%. Wait the weather out, and as soon as conditions improve, my guess is if you're feeling comfortable again, it's time to get back in the truck. Trip planning is not new to anybody. You should be checking out weather on your entire trip. If you see the weather coming, talk to your fleet manager, see if they can call the customer, adjust your schedule. Maybe there can be some routing differences that take place instead, but you do have a couple of options to get creative on what's going to make sure that you're staying in safe weather conditions. Complaint number 2, being asked to violate your hours of service. This is just one of those that you should never have to tolerate. As a commercial driver, you're regulated by the FMCSA and the DOT. Hours of service are, listen, every truck is now regulated with ELDs. Try to violate it, you're going to get caught, and the suspensions and so forth that could happen to you as the driver, it makes no sense. So think about this for a minute. Any reputable trucking company, they know that if you ever got into that unfortunate situation of being involved in an accident and you were violating your hours of service, the liability to that company is through the roof, and frankly speaking, the liability to you as a commercial driver, you probably just jeopardized your career. So when you know you're coming up on your hours of service time, make sure you're shutting down with plenty of time to not get into a violation. Again, plan everything in advance to make sure that you know exactly what time you're shutting down, what time you can start the next day. And also some drivers, they basically try to use some of their personal conveyance to kind of make some of that up. Not a very smart idea. That's your time. And so again, it all comes down to proper trip planning, making sure that you're getting to your destination where you're going to start your hours of service, break probably an hour or so in advance, and knowing what time you're going to be taking off the next day. Complaint number 3, probably one of the most important ones, not getting your home time requests approved. You as a driver shouldn't have to have that problem. So I'm just going to say it. Did you pick the right carrier? Did you do your research in advance to find out what the home time expectations that you have are going to be able to be met by them? Some drivers get caught up in these dedicated lanes, and frankly speaking, most dedicated runs are seasonal. They're not year-round. So you come into a company and you get into a dedicated lane and all of a sudden that account goes away. Now you're back over the road again, and if it's an over-the-road carrier, they probably told you 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, whatever that might have been. Did you make sure that you set your expectation, and did that carrier really confirm that they're going to be able to meet that expectation? And at the end of this complaint, the reality is it all comes down to, do you have the lifestyle balance that you're looking for you to be able to sustain it over a long period of time? That's why this is such an important complaint to try to overcome. The first thing you can do to solve this problem, do your homework. Make sure you're talking to the carrier, doing the research, talking to some of the drivers to find out if the home time requests are actually being met on a regular basis. Second biggest thing, communicate with your fleet manager the moment you think that you might be taking time. It's a lot easier for you to say, hey, I need to be home on a certain set of dates, and to cancel that than to approach them a couple of days before that you need the home time and you're on the other side of the country. So the minute you're thinking about possibly taking some home time, even though you can cancel at any time, put that in so your fleet manager can try to make sure he's keeping you in your domiciled area. Another solution, life is life, right? And so unexpected events happen. It can be a family emergency. Not sure what the conditions will be, but we all have been in that position to where you go to bed at night having no idea that you need to be back home the next morning because something happened with a family member. Carriers typically should be able to bend over backwards to make that happen. I know a number of carriers out there that will actually tell you upon your hiring that whenever you have an emergency, they're going to have you park your truck immediately, either rent you a car and put you on a flight. Ask those questions of, if there's an emergency, what will you do to help me make sure that I'm able to meet that request for that emergency home time? Another one, listen, you guys all have your calendars. You know when the spouse is having a birthday, you know when the kids' ball games are. Lay that all out. You can put it out there 6 months in advance. The more that you can kind of do your planning and saying, these are the dates that I'm always home throughout the year, and there are anniversaries and birthdays and events like that. Tell your fleet manager up front. That way, without a doubt, they've got that information, and it's going to give them the chance to succeed to be able to meet that home time request and approval. Complaint number 4. Not getting paid what you were promised. This is kind of near and dear to me because we recruit a lot of drivers every year. And frankly, there are times when you're lured into a company where they're going to give you all these big promises on cents per mile and what you're going to get at the end of every week. But there is one other piece to this too as well of, are you clear on how hard you got to work to earn that money? And again, it comes down to asking those right questions before you make that decision. Some of it comes down to what you were told for weekly settlements after your expenses. Some of it is tied to sign-on bonuses that you were promised. Some of it ties to driver referral bonuses. Just make sure that when you're talking through the payments, that you're asking the carrier that you're talking to, what do I need to do to make sure I absolutely am going to get these things? The most common ways to get paid, you're going to get paid percentage, or you're going to get paid cents per mile. If you're getting paid cents per mile, you probably want to ask how many miles that you're going to really be able to rely on a weekly basis. Do your own math. If you're available to work and they're saying you should be able to run 2,500 miles, the math is real easy and that problem shouldn't be there. On the percentage side, you got to understand what the gross pay is going to be. And once again, how many loads should you be able to average on a weekly basis? So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do to solve this problem. When you're going through orientation, don't just start signing everything. They're throwing papers in front of you and you're just signing away. Read what's being put in front of you. Look for that fine print. And honestly, go to the settlements department. If you don't believe that the settlements are coming out correctly, settlement departments are out there for a reason. They'll do an investigation, make sure that something's not missing, and ask your fleet manager, what do I need to do to turn this around? Have them spell out to you why you're not making the money that you were told you were going to when you got recruited into the company. And now we're on to the final complaint number 5, being asked to deliver to an unsafe location. So what is an unsafe location? You came up to the shipper and you see a bridge and you're not really sure that you're going to get underneath it, and it wasn't on your route. There's a bunch of construction that was unplanned, and you got a bunch of barriers that have made your lane really narrow, and you're concerned that maybe you're going to clip something. It can be weather conditions. It's really muddy. You're not sure if the potholes are 3 inches deep or 3 feet deep. You can never put safety second to delivering a load. Solution is stop what you're doing. The minute that you know that you're getting into an unsafe situation, pull over the first safe location you can. Sometimes it's not optimal, but make the decision to stop before you get into that situation. So now we get down to the end of these 5 main complaints, and there's going to be a point where you have to say, when is it time to quit your carrier? I've always had a golden rule. Somebody leaving, or if I'm leaving, should never be a surprise. Why is that? Because if I have truly addressed everything and gave who I'm working for every opportunity to be aware of my concerns or of my complaints and gave them an opportunity to respond to me, it shouldn't be a surprise to them because you're not supporting me as the driver. You're gonna know. Don't ever leave a carrier because you're frustrated at a situation. Usually it's not just one thing you leave a carrier for. It's usually multiple things that they have just proven that they are not going to correct for you.
For a good indicator of what your experience will be like with a new carrier, take a look at their facilities. What do they look like? Do they have a nice facility where you can come and go as you please, or do you need to stand behind a plexiglass wall to talk to someone? At orientation, do you get to meet your fleet manager and have lunch with them, or do you barely get a handshake? You should never have to put up with unfair practices, and you should feel confident that you can demand the respect you deserve as a valuable member of the team. Here at ATS, the driver always comes first. We've built our culture around our most important asset, you, the driver. If you're ready to join a team that cares, contact us about a career with ATS today. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Over the Road on the Truck Driving channel. We make videos like this every week, so if you found this to be helpful, give the video a like and subscribe to our channel below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you out on the road.